You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Thanks for joining me and my buddy over here across from me, Ryan Tejas.
Hello.
Ryan, you trimmed your beard. You're looking trim.
I did. I didn't, but thank you.
Okay, well, there you have it. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks for choosing this podcast. If you're a big Elizabeth Tulloch fan, Superman and Lois, tons of other stuff, you're at the right place. Look, Ryan, I don't think it's too much to ask if people enjoy the podcast and like that was a great interview to maybe subscribe to the show, follow us, and start listening.
Cool.
I'd appreciate that. Only if you like the interview, though. If it sucks, just tell me I suck and move on. Yeah, that would hurt my feelings.
Do you want to hear that you suck? I don't think you want to hear that.
Well, you don't want to hear it, but maybe constructive suck.
Yeah.
Like
you suck, and here's why.
You suck, but you could suck less.
And let me give you some examples
of suckage,
and how you can fix the sucky.
Yeah. You know what? I've been watching the show Derek. It's older. It's like,
oh yeah, I remember
man, that. It is one of the best shows ever. If you want, these are stories of like, he works in an old age home, like a convalescence home, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
And he's on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. It is so beautiful and so hysterical at the same time, how they balance it. I strongly suggest if you want to get a good cry and a good laugh and easy to watch 20-minute episodes, check out Derek, man. I want to get Ricky Gervais on the show.
That'd be cool.
I DM'd him. I hopped into his DMs. I said, man, listen, for nothing else, I just want to say you're brilliant, and this show touched me, and thank you. And whether he responds or not is neither here or there.
No, it's all right, mate.
It's all right. He's like, he does this thing. It's like, if animals on the shore and the sharks and whatnot, if they could all fight each other, who would win? Like a rhinoceros versus a shark? I don't know. That's not that funny the way I'm saying it. But listen, if you really love the show and you want to support us, it's a little podcast, and we talk about mental health and life and journeys, and not just actory stuff. I hope not. But join Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/inside of you. There's certain tiers. The how deep is your love tier? I just want to let you know you'll be on the podcast. I'll interview you for a little bit, for like 5 minutes or so at the end of an episode. You also get a group Zoom from me, and there's other wonderful things, but it's you're helping the show. Also, the top tiers also get packages sent by me, and a lot of fun things in there. And so join patreon.com/inside of you. Also, if you go to my Instagram at the Michael Rosenbaum, my link tree, cameos, all the events I'm going to be at, the conventions, all that stuff, including Rosie's Puppy Fresh Breath, which is my product on Amazon. Capful in your dog's water and your dog's breath will go from shit to mint. And there's lots of other stuff, so go check it out on my Instagram at the Michael Rosenbaum. And the Inside of You online store has amazing stuff. And I just want to really quickly promote Sunspin, my band. If you go to sunspin.com, don't fast forward yet. If you just go there, there's pre-orders for the album, and you could be an executive producer and have your name on the album. You can get a free concert from us. There's so many things. Go to sunspin.com. and get a package, the album, the photo album. There's so many cool things, Ryan. It's really cool finishing an album, It's the most expensive album we've done. So we don't make a dime. We just, it pays for the album. Mm-hmm. And hopefully people listen to it, and hopefully we can get some placement. But I think there's some really great songs. You're gonna be blown away by some of the songs.
I've heard some samples as it's coming along, as all the mixes are coming along.
Yeah.
It does sound expensive, but in a good way.
Yeah, man. I'm very excited. So that's all I have to tell you. I hope you enjoy this podcast. Elizabeth Tulloch was amazing. I had so much fun talking to her. She's dynamic. She's super talented. She's done so many things, and we'll talk about all of it. Superman and Lois, of course. And let's just get inside of Elizabeth Tulloch. It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience. It's nice to finally get you here. Now, I hear, it was very difficult to get you on the podcast when you were doing
Superman and Lois.
Superman and Lois. It was just, for whatever reason, they wanted to, they knew that you might open up a little bit if you came on this show. They were worried about it. They've got to protect their dubba. I get it.
It wasn't a long, conversation. It was also, I was busy.
You were busy.
And it was just one person, and they said, maybe you don't want to do it because he might ask a question you don't want to answer. And my response was, if I ever get asked a question I don't want to answer, I'm not going to answer it. But whatever, okay.
And I always tell them, I'm like, look, anything you want cut, we edit. In fact, a lot of times while we're talking, I go, hey, cut that, Jason. Well, don't cut that,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's very easy, but I think it takes a lot of time for publicists to feel comfortable about, recommending their client do your show, for me. So, because it's like, now that I've interviewed like 350 people, I think they're more apt to say, okay, we know what the show is.
Right.
We like it. It's comfortable.
It.
We know you're protecting our client. So now it's become easy, but in the beginning it was very difficult.
When did you start the podcast?
I don't know, like 6 years ago. Could you do me a favor? My OCD is killing me right now. Behind you, that Gene Hackman poster, that Superman poster. Everybody could hear this. We don't need to see that.
By the way, the behind you, I noticed, is a little off too.
Are you OCD too?
Yeah. When I was younger, it kind of manifested itself I have more control over it now, but I still have OCD tendencies. Like, I texted you that I was 4 minutes late.
That's just respect.
That's respect too, but I'm extremely clean, and I like things at right angles, but I'm constantly, it's also just really cathartic for me, cleaning.
It is, right?
I love wiping down surfaces. I love doing laundry. I'm horrible at it. I shrink everything, but there's something so comforting about picking up a pile of warm laundry. But yeah, I would still consider myself a little OCD.
I could tell you're a good mom.
I thought I was going to be a helicopter mom, and I am the opposite.
What's a helicopter mom like?
They're like, they hover, and they're constantly afraid. Yeah. I mean, yeah, constantly afraid the kid's going to hurt themselves or something. And my point of view with Vivian is I would just give her a knife. And I remember David walked in once and he was like, what are you doing? She was probably 3.5, but she was pretty smart. And I said, you have to respect the knife. And this knife could cut you. It wasn't like, a chef's knife, but she was cutting, a banana
Japanese
or something.
Knife,
yeah, not
knife.
Exactly. And I'm like, respect the knife. And I said, you know what? Worst case scenario, she's going to cut herself a little bit and she's never going to do it again. And if she's climbing on a high wall and she falls, she's not going to climb on that high wall again. That's kind of the mom I am. And I really thought I would not be that mom.
That mom is, let's not get into my mom.
Or mine.
But growing up, in the 80s, it's like, you figure stuff out. If you get hurt, you don't do it again. And I think nowadays, parents are really like so protective over their kids, and it feels like the kids walk all over the parents a lot of times too.
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of debate about this whole gentle parenting thing.
Yeah.
Where it is.
I just didn't have that, so I don't understand it.
I didn't have that either. I mean, the one thing I will say I do with my daughter. I do. Immediately.
I'm so immature.
I
do.
I heard it too, and I thought of that Friends episode.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The one thing that I guess would, fit into the gentle parenting daughter is we never talked to her like a baby. We never said like a wee-wee or a hoo-hoo. We always said, a penis or a vagina. And we never kind of did baby talk to her. And we always used normal language, big vocabulary words around her. And she has now, if she doesn't know the meaning of a word, and her vocabulary is particularly extraordinary because we did that, and if she doesn't know the meaning of a word, she's like, okay, what does that mean? She's really curious. It is a bit of, if I mess up, like if I snap at her, which I typically don't, because I try to be the mom that, like, the opposite of the way my mom was. And my mom was a yeller. And so I'm typically chill, but if I'm running late, I might snap, and then I apologize. I do that.
I shouldn't have yelled at you.
Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah. I say, Viv, I'm sorry. That had nothing to do with you. That was all mommy's fault.
And she understands?
Oh, yeah. Now she's 6. She's also bright. But I said, that's mommy's fault. Mommy did not manage her time well this morning.
Jeez.
So
I never heard this. This is so foreign to me this is like, it's your fault. You're stupid. You're dumb. You're this, you're that. So I think, you could love your kids, tell them you love them, be supportive, be unconditional with love and all that. But at the same time, be a little stern and be like, hey, we don't do that. Don't do, you know what I mean?
Oh, I do that too.
Yeah. Hey,
yeah.
we just don't do that. Or be respectful. Or, there's ways to do it without.
I canceled a play date that she had today. She had a play date yesterday, and she had another one today because she was kind of trying to show off to her friend Odin and was sassing me a little bit. And I said, you do not speak to me that way. And she sassed me again, and I said, the play date's off for tomorrow.
She cry?
Not at all. No, she's not a crier. She's a very tough cookie. And I said, actions have consequences, Viv. And then she said, okay, well, can I have one next week? And I said, as long
as you don't sass.
Yeah, as long as you don't sass me, then sure.
I'm Bitsie, but you're being a little bitty.
Yeah.
Viv. We don't do that. What's her first curse word she's heard that she
said? Oh, it was great too. David, God, she was young. David usually, what does he say?
Shit.
Oh, no. Under his breath, he'll go, fucking hell, right? So we're driving to our house in Washington where we live from Vancouver. This is one, he was filming A Million Little Things. We got so lucky. He was on A Million Little Things for 5 seasons. I was doing Superman and Lois, both in Vancouver. So we live in Washington. We're driving to the Washington house. She's just turned 3. And I think she dropped something. So it was appropriate. And she goes under her breath, the same delivery, fucking hell. And I go, excuse me? What did you just say?
You didn't laugh right away?
No, I go, what did you just say? She goes, fucking hell. Same delivery. I go, where'd you hear that? And she goes, Daddy says it. So I was driving. So I was like, with the command on the car, send text message to David Gentoli. We have to talk. When we get to the house, I'm calling you.
Oh my God.
But she didn't really get it. Now she knows. And it was really cute for a while because she would say, Mama, I heard somebody say F-O-K. When she was like 4. No, F-O-K. She just, before she could really spell it.
Oh, okay.
And
I thought it was
it was so cute. No, it was just F-O-K. And it was cute. And then at some point, again, the kind of grammar nerd in me, at some point, we're driving and I go, Vivian, it's spelled F-U-C-K. So I taught.
You told her that?
Yeah, I told her.
She has to be educated.
Yeah. And then the other one was we were in Montana last summer and my friend Callie says holy shit a lot. And she asked what that meant. And I said, it's something grown-ups say. You're just not allowed to say it. Because I have the worst potty mouth. My friends and I curse like sailors, but I don't do it around her.
That's good. That's not easy either.
No. I mean, I honestly don't think, I just don't curse around her. But the second I'm around any of my best friends, it's bananas how bad we are. Yeah. Every other word is fuck. And it's actually a sign of intelligence, believe it or not.
That's what I heard on Instagram too. But I'm like,
no, there's articles about.
I'm not that intelligent. I swear. Yeah. I try not to throw many F-bombs and stuff around. Like I had a friend that I actually told him, I said, listen, I'm not your parent. I don't care if you swear. We all swear. But you say F so much.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like a turnoff.
That's different. Yeah.
Yeah. He'd be like,
because then it gets to the point where you sound uneducated.
Yeah. Exactly. How do you feel? I mean, you did 4 seasons of Superman and Lois.
Yes.
There's a lot of thoughts I have. Like, first of all, how much work, how much stress does it take? Because I've done a 1 hour, but I wasn't the lead. You're in the title and you're Lois Lane. How much work is it every day? And also having a daughter and a husband and, being on set, 14 hours a day?
Yeah. Sometimes longer if, considering drive time and hair and makeup time. But, Grimm was a 1 hour and we did 123 episodes.
You did 6 seasons?
We did 6 seasons.
Yeah.
And that was on some level harder. That was good prep for Superman and Lois because we did so many Fraturdays, but we started doing night shoots basically by Wednesday. So everybody's sleep schedule got so messed up because our Monday, our shooting call would be 7 a.m. then it bumps to Tuesday, 8 or 9 a.m. And then Wednesday, it's noon. And then Thursday, it's 4 p.m. And then Friday, it's a 6 p.m. call time, and you're shooting till 7 a.m. And so, and you're outside. We shot in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, it's called Grimm. It's going to be a lot of night shoots.
Yeah, it's a lot of night shoots in the rain. And this wasn't a too much location stuff. I mean, Vancouver's cold and it snows and we have
rains.
But the rain, again, a lot of, Tyler was like, what is this? I was so used to it, having been in Portland for 6 years. I really have been in the Pacific Northwest mainly since 2011 when I started Grimm.
So you're saying that Superman and Lois was a little bit easier actually than Grimm?
I would say shooting wise, yeah, it was easier. As an actor, Superman and Lois was a lot harder. I always joke because I'm somebody who can cry on screen
easily.
And, yeah, I mean, yeah, but I have to stay in it. And it was interesting. I did a movie called Chronic with Tim Roth, amazing Mexican director, Michelle Franco. And we were doing this crying scene, and it was before we started filming. And he pops into the green room where I was, and he goes, save it, in his awesome accent. He's like, save it. And I was younger, and I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, we're going to be doing this so many times, save it. And he also goes, stay well hydrated. Because, and so I immediately started drinking water, and I kind of stopped it. But when I have really emotional scenes, I have to put my earbuds in and go off into a corner. And otherwise, I'm shooting the shit. I'm talking. Tyler and I are the same way. We'll be fucking around, messing around, teasing each other. And then they yell action and we drop in.
That's how I work.
Yeah. And some people don't work that way. So it was nice that he and I kind of had the same, that we.
You could joke. You're like, oh my God, that's great. It's like, listen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Except for, but I always joke that when producers or writers realize an actor can actually cry, it's like they want to see it every episode.
I know.
And there was an episode, season 1, where Lois had, and this is one of the things that I feel like really distinguishes our show as far as the superhero universe. It was so grounded in reality. And they had written an episode, I forget what it's called, but it was season 1, episode 8. And she has a miscarriage, right? And it was tying together this storyline that was going to happen at the end of season 1, where Lois has had a daughter named Natalie on another Earth. And I called Todd Helbing, our showrunner, and I said, can we make it? Because I've had so many friends who've had fertility struggles that are awful, just really heartbreaking stuff, including 2 stillborns that were otherwise healthy pregnancies and late-term miscarriages. And so I called Todd and I said, if we're going to do this, can we make it a late-term miscarriage? And when we're showing the the son Jonathan, photos of the twins, can we make sure that there's a visibly pregnant Lois, so that it's just makes it that much more difficult? Yeah. But that episode had a lot of emotional.
So you weren't fun on that episode.
It was a bottle episode, and no, it was not fun.
No,
it was heavy, and I think people, it was like that, and also with the cancer story arc, which was the main arc for season 3, there was a lot of trepidation about going there on a superhero series, but the fans loved it, and I would say I cannot tell you how often at Comic-Cons people come up to me. I'd say at least 1 in 8, 1 in 10, who have cancer, have lost someone to cancer. The last con I went to, there were 3 people whose wives had passed away from breast cancer 6 months earlier. I mean,
you're
how
a big
specific is
advocate
that?
for breast cancer too. You've spoken a lot about it.
Yeah, and particularly I would recommend personally, because I interviewed so many women who had either had it or currently had breast cancer, getting ready for the storyline. 3 or 4 of them, I think I spoke to 11 women. 3 or 4 of them had been diagnosed in their 20s or around 30. So right now the recommendation is to start getting mammograms and stuff at 40. And in my opinion, it should honestly be 35. And obviously if there's a family history, do it as soon as you.
How many have you had?
Mammograms?
Yeah.
3. And I found out that I have dense breast tissue, which I didn't know about. And here's the other.
What does that mean?
This is the fucked up thing. Because in my head, when I was thinking dense breast tissue, like my boobs are not enormous. It just didn't make sense. But basically, your tissue is just kind of harder. So on a mammogram, all of your boob reads almost as cancerous. So it's hard to spot cancer. So they recommend, if you have dense breast tissue, doing an ultrasound. The fucked up thing, and again, I've talked a lot about this, is that most insurance companies do not require ultrasounds. And I feel like if you've been if you have dense breast tissue, they should automatically have to cover breast ultrasounds as
100%.
well. The other thing I talk about a lot is men get breast cancer too. So if there's a history of breast cancer in your family, men should, if get tested for the BRCA gene. Did your mom pass away from?
Myself.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that was actually a storyline on A Million Little Things. There was a character on A Million Little Things who, James Roday.
Love James.
Yeah, James is the best.
Great guy.
Such a good director too. But his character had breast cancer, and he met his, down the road love interest at a breast cancer group.
Wow. Inside of You is brought to you by Mint Mobile. You're going to want to listen to this. Folks, summer is just around the corner, and all the folks at Mint Mobile have a hot take. Getting a summer bod is out, and getting your savings bod is in. This spring and summer, we want skimpy wireless bills and fat wallets. And with premium wireless plans for just $15 a month, yes, you heard it right, you can have both without breaking a sweat or the bank. This is pretty amazing. This is an amazing deal. I've never heard this before. But look, say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you.
All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network.
Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts.
Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month.
This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get your summer savings and shop premium wireless plans at mintmobile.com/inside of you. That's Mint, M-I-N-T, mintmobile.com/inside of you. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month, 5-gigabyte plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for the first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com for details. Back to the crying, and then we'll get over the crying. But what goes on in your mind when you need to get emotional? What music are you listening to? What are you thinking? Is there a trigger point that can just get you right into it?
Now, I'm not the kind of actor. I'm definitely not method, but I also am not this person that's thinking of how sad I was when my dog died or how sad I was when my grandfather died. I'm in character. So in that moment when I was doing the miscarriage storyline or the cancer stuff or I really am, I just feel it in my bones. And a lot of that is probably my training, which is Stella Adler, which is, you do a lot of history on your character. And, when I was studying, and I don't know if you know this, but I didn't even start acting till I was about 24. I
didn't know that.
Zero interest.
Wow.
In fact, I had so little interest that I was down in Australia working, some whatever job with a girlfriend shooting when they were shooting Star Wars Clone Wars. This was in 2000, the summer of 2000. And George Lucas and I really bonded because I was on set a lot. And also I'm a snacker and so is he. And I'd sit next to him a lot while he was directing. And he's like, let me put you in. I got to put you in as, what do you want to be? And I was like, no, sorry. Because I was such an
George
academic.
Lucas is saying, be in my movie.
Yeah. I mean, not as a big role.
No, but still,
Yeah.
George Lucas tells you to wipe his ass. I might consider it.
And I was academic. I had my plan. I was going to go to get my MFA in England after I graduated. And then
Literature, you studied literature?
I double majored in literature and visual and environmental studies, which is actually really just a pretentious name for the fine arts. But I went to Harvard, so of course you would expect the fine arts to be. But yeah, no, I was, again, really academic family. My sister triple majored at NYU. My mom was valedictorian at Loyola Marymount.
That's a lot of pressure growing up.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful. And it's funny. I had a conversation with one of my daughter's besties recently, her mother, the kid's mom, because this kid, I'm not kidding you, is taking, she's 6, violin, cello, soccer, swimming, ballet, hip hop, French,
that's
Spanish. And there's one more because I was telling someone else the other day and it was 9 things. And I said, and she was asking about the Harvard thing. And I said, I have to tell you, I said, let her play and have fun. I mean, you do you.
Please.
But I said, I really resent my mom in particular because there was so much pressure on me academically that, and I tell, when people are like, well, what? I know you went to Harvard. I'm like, here's a good example. I didn't study for the SATs. I took them and I either got a 1530 or 1540. And
out of 1600?
I tell my mom I got a 1530 or 1540 and she goes, when are you retaking them?
Come on.
And I'm not kidding. There was, and
I
then
won't even tell you what I got.
At that point, I said, that is good enough to get into any of the 10 colleges I'm applying to. And I got in everywhere but Princeton, where I was waitlisted. But I got into Yale, Brown, Dartmouth, Harvard.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then
are you a savant? I mean, are you like, do you have like photographic memory?
A little bit. But I don't think I'm that smart. I do have a bit of a photographic memory. That is true. And that is part of why I succeeded in high school, because I remember when I was, doing English, for example, I could quote just chunks of James Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. So it almost feels like cheating in hindsight, because part of the reason I think my essays were so impressive, so to speak, in high school is that I could just remember verbatim, paragraphs of these novels, and of course then tie them in. And, I'm not a dum-dum, but I don't think of myself as, I certainly don't think of myself as a savant or a prodigy. But what I am is good at school.
You're good at school.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think everyone, like, it really it weighed on me that I didn't get really great grades. I didn't realize I had ADD. I mean, really bad ADHD. No one ever had patience with me. So I couldn't focus. I just couldn't focus. And those few teachers that really made things interesting, or I was somehow got engaged, I would excel.
Right.
And I would be interested and ask questions and talk and be excited about it. But it was very few and far between. And
right, because given your age, this is really pre-Ritalin being more commonly used, there being any awareness really of ADD or ADHD. Yeah,
I was just all over the place, and it was just I thought, based on what people were telling you, you're just dumb, you're just not smart, you're just this, you're annoying, so I didn't get all that. I didn't get all that. That kind
of breaks my heart. And
well, I don't want to break your heart, but like it took me years of therapy to realize that I'm not stupid. Okay, my therapist would say, you wrote a script, right? How many scripts did you write? I go, I don't know, 20 scripts. You've written 20 scripts. You memorize your lines for the TV show, right? I go, yeah. You act, and he starts naming these things. So it's like, that doesn't really sound like a stupid person.
Yeah.
And I go, I don't know. I mean, really? He's like, well, there's different kind of smarts, right? You're school smart, but you're also obviously smart. But I'm street smart. I read people's character. I'm a good judge of character. There's like a lot of things that I know I'm good at, but I don't want to go in celebrity jeopardy just because my friends think I should, but I think I'll just freeze because I'll think about the kid who wasn't very smart and like, and I have to perform. I have to prove myself. It just freaks me out. Part of me wants to just go on it and just.
See, I wouldn't do that either. I'm not great I also didn't grow up in America. So there's a lot.
Yeah, you grew up in, let me see, Spain, Australia.
No, Spain, Uruguay, and Argentina.
Oh, but you moved. Yeah. You lived in.
I lived in Australia for 4 months in between my freshman and sophomore year at school in college. So that's when I was doing.
Gotcha.
On set for.
¿Cómo estás? Muy bien.
Claro que sí. Yo nací cuando mi familia y yo vivíamos en Barcelona y después nos mudamos a Uruguay y Argentina por 8 años más.
Bienvenidos a los Estados Unidos.
Gracias.
Sí. ¿Qué hora es?
Ahora,
¿Qué hora es?
11.
Let's see.
11:30.
See. I remember my teacher in Spanish class, Mrs. Skinner. She'd go off and like, Mr. Rosenbaum? And I go, Como? No, como. No, como. Como's how, right?
Yeah.
Or what, or something. So
I just auditioned for the Little House on the Prairie reboot. And so
what?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite shows.
So I remember when we moved to the States, I was so embarrassed and I stopped. Spanish was my first language. I stopped speaking because when I moved to the US, somebody teased me because I'd never heard of, the first thing I was just thinking of was NSYNC, but that doesn't track time-wise. I'd never heard of New Kids on the Block, or I wasn't into them. And everybody was in the New Kids on the Block. And I had been into Menudo,
Menudo
or whatever. And I sort of got teased a little for, I probably even had a little bit of an accent, even though I was raised in a bilingual household. And so I stopped speaking and I lost a lot of it. But there's a ton of shit that I just don't get. Like, bird in the hand and one in the bush. I fuck those, a pig, I said.
Two in the, one in the hand is better than two in the bush.
I cannot get them.
I mess them up too.
Yeah.
Don't stare a gift horse in the mouth. That's good, right. Yeah, but I mess those up.
I mess them up. I constantly, I said to a girlfriend, I remember this, and I go, he was on me like a pig on shit. She's like, it's like it'll be I mix them up.
That's not stupidity.
No,
that's just
Yeah. But
you're probably hard on yourself, aren't you?
Well, it's more just annoying because I do this constantly.
How do I excel in all these majors and these schools, and I go to Harvard and I can't remember this.
Yeah,
I know it's It's
that's the part of my brain where I don't consider myself completely fluent any longer. But I remember I'm like, oh, Spanish was my first language, and I think that's part of why these sayings that I didn't grow up around. But I'm also a huge klutz unless I'm filming, playing the role of someone elegant, and then somehow I can keep it together. Tyler always jokes I walk better in heels than in flats, which is honestly why I'm wearing heels. I am covered in bruises all the time. This is from a burn. I walk into, I think I have depth perception issues. I have really bad eyesight and astigmatism in both eyes. I graze the right side of doorways at least once a day. It's like I'm like a horse with.
Does David just freak out? Like, what is going on?
He's so used to it.
He just doesn't say anything anymore.
No,
I'm bleeding. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I texted him the photo of the burn today just because I was saying it's an oven on the kitchen island. And I was saying, like, I reached across to hand Vivian something and the oven had been on. I was making pizza. And I also, it's genetic, but I have a freakishly high pain tolerance. And so my skin burned off and I was like, ow. And my daughter has it too. And so when she was a baby, I was scared she had like the I don't remember what it's called, but it's where you cannot feel physical pain.
It's like that movie Novocaine.
Yeah. And it's incredibly dangerous for obvious reasons.
Yeah, if you have a severe case of that where they don't feel pain.
Yeah, you could have your hand
be burning
in a fire.
alive and don't feel it.
And she just never really cried. She'd fall over, she'd hurt herself, she'd cut herself and wasn't crying. And I was so freaked out that she had the kind of big one. And then right when we went to Vancouver in the middle of COVID in July 2020, she picked up this huge rock, dropped it on her toe, big toe split open, blood everywhere. She starts crying. And my internal reaction was, yes.
She feels pain.
She doesn't
Mommy,
have the thing.
You're crazy.
Yeah. But like I'm really obsessed with skincare and lasers and stuff. And my friends just think I'm bananas because I'll do something called Fraxel, which
I heard about that. It's a laser that hurts.
I feel the heat and I feel pain, but for me, I am so impatient to such a fault.
I am too. I'm ahead of myself a lot.
I don't want to go and sit there for an hour with numbing cream on. So What
about pregnancy? Was that a breeze for you?
No, because I wasn't I didn't have hyperemesis or hyperemetic, whatever it is. But the first 20 weeks or 6 to 20, like the day I turned 6 weeks pregnant, I started vomiting. And I pretty much didn't stop till 20 weeks.
Oh,
And it was
God.
weird. It was like a night sickness, afternoon and nighttime. So I started realizing, so I never really lost weight. Like it can be really dangerous for women who have hyperemesis and they're hospitalized or even potentially feeding tube kind of situation because they're constantly vomiting. But mine started at 3 p.m. every day. So I'd have a huge breakfast and a huge lunch to get calories in my body. And then it would start, and then I couldn't even keep water down. So that sucked.
That's miserable.
And I would also pee myself. It was so violent. The retching, the
You peed
vomiting.
yourself.
I would pee myself, and I didn't want David. And the sound of it, I have like PTSD from the sound was so wretched. And David I would have a towel around the toilet bowl, and David would just kind of hand me a dry thing of underwear because it happened. It was just this. But my whole stomach was contracting.
A shock to the system.
Yeah, it was awful. And I'd probably throw up 8 times until I went to bed. And then it stopped and it was a breeze. Now, labor, and I don't recommend this. I was stupid.
Labor?
No. I don't recommend. I was dumb, and I had lunch with a friend who's much bigger than I am. She's, bigger boned, much more athletic, a lot taller. And I had dinner with her maybe 3 or 4 weeks before I went into labor. And she had a baby, a year prior. And she was like, you can do this. Don't get the epidural. Women have been doing this for thousands of years without drugs.
You almost sounded like Jennifer Coolidge for a second. You can do this. Everything's great. People have been doing it.
And I had a plan, and the plan was get the epidural and then go for a natural birth. There were 2 things I was stupid. And again, I wasn't gaining a ton of weight. I was gaining weight. But anyway, so my friend's like, don't get the epidural. I'm like, changing my birth plan, not doing that. The other thing was at around 32 weeks pregnant, I'd only gained
4, 8, 12, 16, 24, 28.
Basically,
so 8 months.
Yeah.
A little over 8 months. Almost due.
Yeah. Basically, your pregnancy lasts 40 weeks, which doesn't make sense when you think of a pregnancy as being 9 months long.
Right.
But it's 40 weeks. So at 30 or 32 weeks, I had some issues with my placenta. And I had been in the ER overnight. And I had been like heavily bleeding. And David was in Vancouver. And they tried to have me C-section. And I was like, no. Because I'm reading that chart and I'm in distress right now, but my baby's not. So if the baby starts going into distress, we can have a conversation about it, C-section. But
wow.
I'm like, no.
So bring it on.
There were 5 all female, weirdly, doctors who came in and were trying to convince me to C-section because I had giant clots of blood coming out. And
you said no.
I said no. I'm like, I can't get a hold of my husband right now. So the next day, obviously, he put the thing on where it's like, if I ring more than twice, the phone will ring. He was in Vancouver. But more than that, I'm like, I can see the monitor and I can see my baby's line and I can see my line and the baby's perfectly healthy right now. So I'm not going to
But they were worried about you.
They were kind of saying, it's probably healthier for you and the baby. And I'm like, I'll be good, probably.
Most likely.
But I was watching, and so I didn't. And sure enough, I went into labor 2 days before her due date.
Wow.
And I was so happy that I didn't C-section early. But so around then, I hadn't gained a ton of weight. And I go to this placenta specialist, right? And I'm panicking because you do these weigh-ins. And I'm 30 or 32 weeks pregnant, and I only gained 14 pounds. And I was kind of freaking out. And I remember I started crying. And most of these ultrasounds and stuff, I would FaceTime David because he was filming season 1 of A Million Little Things. And I just went alone, or I would do a video, whatever. So he was there for that one. And I'm crying. And I'm like, oh my God, my baby's going to be emaciated. And I was like a 6-pound baby. So I'm thinking, so we go into the room. And this guy, who's a doctor, who has been to medical school, who knows what he's doing, looks at me, looks at the ultrasound, looks back at me, And he goes, you should schedule a C-section right now. And I'm like, come on. I've only gained 14 pounds. There's no way. And he goes, your baby, I'm looking at you. You're extremely petite. Your baby is enormous. He said, you know, she was like 5.5 pounds, right? At 32 weeks. And I'm like, doctor, you know, it was a little arrogant and quite frankly, more stupid than anything. Doctor, the margin of error for these estimations of weight in utero is massive, right? So I'm just thinking there's no way. I've only gained 14 pounds. So I leave there thinking like, oh, is he kidding me? No. So anyway, so I'm going in with my birth plan. Now, no epidural, no C-section scheduled. I go into labor at 4 a.m. on a Saturday. I got into the bath, didn't wake David up till 7 because I was like, this is my last time alone with this little girl, right? So I got into the bath. I'm kind of talking to her at 7. I'm like, the contractions are getting worse. I didn't even have the doula come over until 4. I didn't even say, let's go to the hospital. By the time we got to the hospital at 8:30, I was 8 centimeters dilated, but I waited too long, also stupid. And so it took, 40 minutes to get to Cedars, and it should have taken 20 because if David drove over a quarter, I was like, what the fuck? It was incredibly painful. We get there and they're like, so no epidural, right? I'm like, no. I'm in the shower. I'm on this ball. I'm screaming. I start vomiting. I started shaking so badly. I got whiplash, right? Vomiting everywhere. They're like, do you want the epidural? And I'm like, no, I can do this, right? So they're like, we got to try something else. So they did like a dose of Pitocin or something, which is meant to induce labor. And that caused her to go into distress. So they, something, I don't know if the Pitocin was first, but at some point someone's like, we're going to give you a baby dose of it's called a walking epidural. And they come in and my OB, who's amazing, he goes, hey, Bits, so in all likelihood, because her head is just not descending and you've been in labor for, a long time at this point, in all likelihood, the placenta specialist is right and your baby's probably huge. And by this point also, I was 28 pounds. So I doubled. So I looked like I swallowed a basketball. So
right.
I had gained.
So this guy was not only right, but now the baby's even bigger.
Yeah. So
wow.
So the OB is kind of like, I think the specialist, I forgot his name. I probably blocked it out because I felt stupid. He's like, the specialist is probably right and your baby's probably huge. If you want to keep doing this, we can. This is around 7 a.m. So now this is 27 hours into this. God. And
27 hours of labor.
He's like, at this point, 85% chance we're gonna have to C-section, and it could be an emergency C-section. And at that point, I mean, if you see the photo of me right after I gave birth, there was no color in my face. It was, I have PTSD from the way I did it because it felt like, and again, this is why I recommend just get the epidural. Don't try to be tough. It felt like I was being drawn and quartered in medieval era, or honestly, that someone was taking my body and ripping it in half. That's what it felt like. I was vomiting from the sheer pain. Cut to, they finally C-section her, which I could have just gone in, had a C-section, stay in the hospital for 4 days. They give you warm chocolate chip cookies. It's great. But no, I ended up having 27 hours later, my daughter was 8.5 pounds and 22 inches long.
I was 8.5 pounds.
Yeah. So she was huge, and the guy was right.
Inside of You is brought to you by Rocket Money, our good friends at Rocket Money. They started helping Ryan here. They started helping me. They're helping so many people across the world. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Now, I don't know how many of you out there have gotten a subscription to a streamer and you do it because you want to watch a show and then you forget and then bam, you've paid $150 at the end of the year. Well, I've been that person. Ryan's been that person. That's why we got Rocket Money to begin with. And you don't have to worry about that anymore because you're blowing so much money by not being aware of all these things going on, and let someone else do it for you.
See all of your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money is going. For ones you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel them.
Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all your accounts. Easily create a personalized budget and custom categories to help keep your spending on track. See your monthly spending trends in each category to know exactly where your money is going. Get alerts if bills increase in price, there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over budget. The new goals feature automatically saves money for you so you don't have to think about it. Help pay off bills, put away money for a house, or just build your savings. Rocket Money makes it easy.
Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with the customer service so you don't have to.
This is incredible. It really is an anomaly, Rocket Money. Ryan, Rocket Money is over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when they use all the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/inside today. That's rocketmoney.com/inside. rocketmoney.com/inside. Were you sad when Superman and Lois ended?
Yes, I was. I loved
Lois and Superman. Superman and Lois.
Superman and Lois.
I always get confused. Say it.
I don't mind the way you're saying it.
I bet they thought Lois and Superman. They're like, yeah, but it's
it was
Superman.
too close to the Adventures of Lois and Clark.
Yeah. Were you? How did you feel about it ending after 4 seasons? And was it tough ending, knowing you're going to end, filming while you're finishing? Like, you knew that this was the last season.
No, you want to know it's the last season. You want to say our goodbyes. We knew on Grimm it was our last season. I've heard, Legends of Tomorrow, they famously just got canceled and they all thought they were going to get another season. I don't know if it ended on a cliffhanger or not, but
I'm different. I did a show for 2 years where I was the lead, and it ended abruptly. Like, we did 2 seasons, and then there's a big cliffhanger. And, the president of the network said, look, we love the show, but we need more female-oriented shows. And, this is a little too dark for us and this and that. And I go, okay, no problem. I wouldn't have wanted him to call me halfway through or at the beginning of the season saying, hey, we're going to do one more season, but this is it. I would have been like, I wouldn't want to know that. I'd rather just, it's done. But you're different. You're different.
Yeah.
You wanted to know. You wanted to say your goodbyes. You knew that they're going to have a good ending. There's a lot of pros to this.
For me, especially on Superman and Lois, because there was a period where our survival was, it was a bit of a tenuous situation because for a couple different reasons, Warner Brothers had a new head. DC Comics had new heads. Nexstar, the biggest thing is that the CW was sold to Nexstar, and so it wasn't a given that we were going to get a season 4, and we had ended on this cliffhanger where Superman and Doomsday are flying at each other. And for me, it was honestly, there's no way we can do that to the fans. That's just wrong. Superman and Doomsday. So a part of it was, hell no, come on. And so we ended up we had done 15, 13, and then 10. So it was a shorter season. Big budget cuts and sadly cast cuts, which is happening more and more across the board.
Yeah.
Even on like Dick Wolf shows and stuff. But season 4, it was the 4 of us, the Kent family, and Michael Cudlitz, who'd been up to a series regular, Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
But everybody else was reduced. And these are tremendously talented actors who got reduced to, some from all episodes produced to 3 out of 10. And so that was sad. Yeah. Our cast and crew and the writers really pulled it together, and man, they stuck the landing. And I have a tremendous admiration for the way they closed out the series. Nobody thought we were going to end this early. That was sort of shocking. When Greg Berlanti was first pitching the show to me and Tyler, everybody was thinking it was going to go at least 7 or 8 seasons. And shit happens. And I've been very vocal in my support of James Gunn and Peter Safran. I think James Gunn is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing the Superman movie. And in my opinion, like, if you're a Superman fan, you're a Superman fan. So go see the movie. And I know it's devastating if you love the show for it to get canceled early, but I'm still proud of what we gave them. And I think, I know weirdly enough, I know Peter and James a bit. Peter, I think, because I came close to booking the lead in one of the Annabelle movies, and James through David Dasmalchian, who
Love David. I'm really close with James and Peter.
Yeah. No, I know we did San Diego Comic-Con Hall H this past July, and there was, you see this shit online where when I felt really bad because James is such a smart guy and he's so brilliant and he's such a visionary, and people just get shit on online.
You're going to get shit on no matter what. You do something, people are going to hate it, people are going to love
100%.
It's just the way it is. You can't, what does Bob Dylan say? Bob Dylan said, you can please some of the people some of the time. You can please a few of the people all the time, but you can't please all the people all the time.
100%.
And that's true. And boy, I wish I learned that.
I tell that to my daughter.
Yeah. It's like, listen, not everybody's going to like you.
That's exactly what I say.
Yeah.
Whenever she's like, hey, someone won't play with me, I go,
oh, well.
And you're super cool. If somebody doesn't want to play with you,
that's on them.
Yes, that's on them.
Yeah.
And then I say, not everyone's going to like you, Viv, and don't expect them to. And that's just life.
Yeah.
You're an extremely appealing person and you have a lot of friends, but not everyone's going to like you. And, she's kind of at that age where some girl made fun of her at hip hop last week because she wore a ballet tutu. And then yesterday when I took her to hip hop, they're like, I was like, hey, Viv, do you want to wear your tutu again? And she was no, because so-and-so. And I was like, you know what? I think you looked so beautiful in that tutu. So for all I know, maybe she was jealous because you looked so goddamn cute. But if you don't want to wear it, you don't have to wear it.
Yeah.
Wear something else. Pick something you feel comfortable in,
That's good.
And there's another kid at school who there's 2 kindergarten classes, another kid who's always on her about her playing with her best friend. Like, no, I'm going to play with, so-and-so. And I just said to her, I'm like, you do not spend time or give your energy to somebody who doesn't make you feel good about yourself, who doesn't make you feel good in your heart. Mm-hmm. You don't spend time with them. So I'm like, just ignore her.
That goes, there's a through line to that. That's just not for 6-year-olds or teen. That's for in life. The more you hang around people who are energy suckers, energy vampires, the more you hang around people who bring you down, it just prevents you from being the best you. And I have found that where I've had to cut off people in the past that they bring me down. I'm always pampering them. I'm always trying to help them. I'm always trying to it's just nothing's ever good enough. It's sad. And all my energy is going to, and I'm like, I can't live your life.
Yeah.
You have to, I'm going off on something else, but like, I think it's important to let people figure it out, to let people know you care about them, know you love them, and just say, I've given you everything I can.
I also am a firm believer in a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think there's a lot of people in this industry.
You got that quote right.
I did.
I'm going to use that one.
There's a lot of people in this industry who are really competitive with each other. And I have noticed it with women, and I don't feel that way at all. I send my friends auditions that I get regularly.
Beautiful.
My point of view is, we're different. Even we're inherently different. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of friends who really should be working more consistently. I feel incredibly grateful for the career I've had, especially given how late I started. And I'm like, we're different. And I am who I am. So if I get it, but I sent a girlfriend the Little House on the Prairie audition. I'm like, you should read for this. You should totally read for this. This could totally be your role. Do I want it? Yes.
Is it still up for grabs, or you didn't get it?
I don't know. I don't think I got it. I feel like I would have heard something.
By the way, is that the best theme song?
I don't know. I watched the pilot. It's slow. I had no idea. It's like an hour and 40 minutes long.
Yeah, but that's not the.
Well, it was the Michael Landon.
That's the best one ever.
But
that's the only one that I know. That's what I grew up. But listen to this.
It was the length of a movie.
Listen to this opening credits, though. This just puts tears.
Are you doing opening credits? Not mine. The Mission, the music from The Mission makes me cry. Samuel Barber's Adagio for Strings makes me cry. That does not make me cry.
Do you
It's
listen to that
beautiful
before you
music.
cry in a scene?
I think that's on my playlist. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we touched briefly on, childhood. You don't have to talk about it, but like was growing up, was it tough for you?
Yes.
Is your mother still with us?
Yes.
And your father?
Yes.
And are you close with them?
I am not close with my mother. I'm close with my father.
Close with your father.
Yeah. They had a very contentious divorce my senior year of school. And
It affected you.
yeah, but when I was 10, I remember saying to my dad, "You guys should divorce. You fight all the time. What are you doing? You're not making each other happy."
Why do parents do that? Why? And I hate the excuse. Well, we do it for you kids. This is worse for the kids.
He said, I was waiting till you graduated from college or something. I'm like, it was miserable. Miserable. You guys should have just divorced. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah, people stay in it. And I don't like that excuse. It's almost like blaming you. So I'm the reason you were unhappy and it was me that stopped you from getting out of unhappiness. Is that sort of what you're insinuating?
Yeah.
Because I think it is.
Yeah.
Get out. I mean, you can be mature and raise a child together and be harmonious or amicable or whatever. But I just think if you're not getting along and you're fighting and there's a lot of other issues, I mean, try to work it out if you really love each other. But if not, hey.
Yeah.
Cut
that
ties.
I think is also part of one of the reasons I threw myself into school, and not only schoolwork, but extracurricular stuff. Ran track, editor of the school newspaper, all this stuff.
Wow. You are Lois Lane.
Well, when people say, because it's really just not like SAT scores or your grades that get you into these colleges that have
It's extracurricular activities.
It's not even that. It's what distinguishes you from other people, because most people that are applying to, I think Harvard's acceptance rate is 3%. It's, most people that are applying have good grades and good SAT scores or ACT scores. Whatever. You're smart. You're smart. If you think you can get in and you're applying, you're smart. You have good grades, right? What I think put me over the edge, because I certainly was not legacy. My dad went to SDSU.
San Diego State University.
Yeah, he was a surfer. He smoked pot. Then he went to Thunderbird, which was a good international management school. That's why we were overseas. He was doing international banking. I also am convinced he might have had something to do in the CIA, because there was shit that happened when we were overseas. Yeah. And in hindsight, I'm like, that doesn't compute. But
yeah, top 3% get in, so there has to be something else that differentiates you from other people.
Yeah, so I had all the extracurriculars, all the APs, all that shit. But what I think put me aside was I won the New York State Poetry Contest a couple years in a row. More than that, I had created was it my junior or I forget. It must have been my junior year that I took AP Spanish, which of course was like, give me a break. Easy. And I realized there were a lot of immigrants in the community who didn't speak English, and my entire family was fluent. And my parents would hire these guys to do work on the house, and they loved coming over because my dad would shoot the shit with them, and he had imported from Buenos Aires, which is where we were living before we moved to the U.S., this huge this huge grill, and he would do this Argentine asado and cook for them, and he'd bring them a beer. And I learned so much watching my dad treat people who other people weren't treating as humans, treat them with such compassion and love and respect.
I think that's so important.
Huge.
That's what I try to do as well. I try to, if anybody's coming over to work on the house or anything, it's like, hey, you guys want some donuts? I got some donuts. You guys want a drink? Have a bit. Ask them how they're doing. I just feel compelled. I want to know about people's lives.
Yeah.
I don't want to just be like, yeah, do that. Everything's personal, and I think people appreciate that. And if anything, if you treat people like that in life, and if they're working with you or for you, they're only going to work harder because you're cool and you treat them like a human being.
It's not even that. It's more, I fervently believe, yes, I've been blessed with certain things. I fervently believe that my worth as a human being is no higher than any other person on this planet. Yeah. Really.
Yeah. It isn't. We're all going to the same place.
Yeah. And so, and but anyway, so what I created, I was like, there's
yeah.
smart kids in this AP class with me. And I reached out to some other schools. At this point, we were in Bedford, New York, about an hour north of the city. And reached out to some of the other schools who had AP students. And I said, do you guys want to just volunteer from, say, 7 to 10 on Wednesday nights? And I wrote this handbook for things in Spanish, cuánto cuesta? And then phonetically, if you were a native Spanish speaker, how would you say, how much does that cost? For the phonetic translation, and then in English, how much does it cost? So you would say, how much do you pay an hour? Will you give me lunch? How much does this cost? How many days do you need me?
Wow.
Basically, I wrote this handbook with phrases that they needed.
Yeah.
And then it was free. And
how many people came to this?
It was pretty busy. We put flyers all over, like Mount Kisco, Bedford Hills, Bedford. And we had kids from the high school in Chappaqua. And we'd all just go and volunteer from 7 to 10. And it was free English classes. And so we'd put flyers around. And my dad, I remember there was definitely a sense of service. And this is one thing where I feel like something my parents definitely did right.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. 26% of Americans who participated in a recent survey say they have avoided seeking mental health support due to fear of judgment. You think nowadays that, it wouldn't be that. And it's a shame because so many people could really benefit from therapy. And, when people hesitate to get help, it doesn't just affect them. It impacts families, workplaces, and entire communities. This Mental Health Awareness Month, let's encourage everyone to take care of their well-being and break the stigma. The world is better when people are healthy and happy. Therapy is a great way to take care of your mental health. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and it's for everyone. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma or loss. BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching people with the right therapist from their diverse network of more than 30,000 licensed therapists with a wide range of specialties. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. And with BetterHelp, you can easily switch therapists anytime at no cost. I think that's a big thing, where if you're like, what if I don't like my therapist? Well, it's easy. You just change. And, it's online. You don't have to go in and see somebody. It's so easy. Start now. Start a good habit. Do something for yourself. We have a lot that's inside of us that we want to get out. We're all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/inside to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/inside.
And this is one thing where I feel like something my parents definitely did right. Every Thanksgiving, we would volunteer at a local church. And my dad, being a Spanish speaker, we drove a Suburban. He'd go around and pick up, the Guatemalan immigrants who, it was primarily Guatemalan immigrants in that part. And he'd say, do you guys want a free meal? It's Thanksgiving. Dia de gracias and everything, and come get in the car and I'll take you. And would then sit down with them and talk to them and, drop them back off, get another round of, 6 or 7 guys. And we would spend our day volunteering and eating. And then we would go home at night and have our family Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And that's
altruism.
Yeah. And I remember I was going through this, most of my breaks I've been like, whatever, move on. It is not meant to be. And almost callously so. But there was one breakup that I was struggling with that was hard because the guy cheated. And so it was a lot of, it was also just, that was shitty. And I remember I was driving down Pico Boulevard and I was probably in my mid-20s. And I love old people. I always have. And there's just this kind of decrepit nursing home. And I'm like, I pull over and I go in and I'm like, can I volunteer here? Because I was so I could sense this sense of me, and ego. And I feel so sorry for wow. I cannot stand people who play victim. I'm like the opposite of that. And I hated this feeling I was having of feeling bad for myself because intellectually, I was like, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to get over this douchebag. But I'm like, I got to do something to get my head out of my ass. So I go in, I'm like, can I volunteer? And they're like, doing what? And I'm like, just hanging out with them. And it was and they're like, well, I'm like, listen, I don't want to clean bedpans. I just want to hang out. What does that look like? And they're like, well, they eat it. You know, they all eat at 5. And I'm like, great. I'll just show up, you know, at 5 o'clock when I can. I think for almost 6 months straight until I booked this big HBO pilot, and then I had to go to Baltimore for 2 months. I went almost every day, Monday through Friday at 5, and I would be there. And there was this little guy, Mikey, who was awesome. And then there was a little old man named Norman who needed help, and I'd go to his room, and he'd be in his wheelchair waiting for me, and I'd wheel him up to the dining room. But I would just talk to them, and I'd kind of go around. And then I kind of had my faves. So by the end of my time at that nursing home, it was really about
Irv,
like,
good to see you.
Yeah. And then also there's an organization called Corazon de Vida that I volunteered with regularly that's kick-ass in LA, where basically, and it's kind of fun. You get on a bus at 6 a.m. opposite like Skirball. And you go on a bus, you stop in San Diego, you hit up a Starbucks, you cross the border into Tijuana, and Corazon de Vida runs about 13 or 14 orphanages. And we bring supplies, and then we just play with the kids and eat lunch with them. And they usually would like do a little performance. And I did that about once a month until I booked Grimm. And I should do it again. But it's just,
she's an anomaly. I will say this from experience. When I dedicated Tuesday nights at the Ronald McDonald House for a while and met my good friend Preston and his family, and he was going through treatment, and just fell in love with the family. There's something about doing something for someone else and not being, because we're all self-centered. We're always thinking about our problems. It does something to you that is, you can't explain. If you want to find happiness, try finding it in helping someone else, because you'll be surprised at how, when you make someone feel a certain way, or you give your time and you're doing it for no other reason because then you want to, altruism, there's no better feeling about yourself in the world. And I've done that whenever I dedicate my time or have the kids from Echoes of Hope, foster youth, all come here and watch a movie. One of the kids shit their pants. It was awful, but great time. But like, I remember those are the happiest moments, like putting a smile on a kid's face, playing with lightsabers, watching movies, making popcorn, anyway, listen, you're beautiful.
I think that's why, one of the most commonly prescribed things for people who are suffering from or living with depression is go volunteer.
100%.
And
it
to me,
helps.
because it's like
getting out of you
and putting the focus on someone else. And also, honestly, really instilling a sense of gratitude. And I went through a lot in my childhood. There were traumatic things. Nothing like sexual abuse, thank God.
Right.
But there was trauma and
mental abuse, maybe.
Yeah, 100% emotional abuse.
Emotional,
yeah. And I'm just such an inherently happy person. And when I start telling people some of the shit that happened to me, they're like, I don't get it. And I say, I'm like, I don't know. I'm just so fucking grateful because I've seen darkness and I pulled myself out of it. And more than that, I have been blessed. I've been blessed with an amazing career and, gifts and,
I could see how grateful you are. I could see
we weren't wealthy, but we weren't, I always knew there was going to be food on the table. Right. And there's a lot of kids. I mean, my God, the shit that's going on with USAID right now is killing me because, if you just think of like the situation in the Sudan, which is a situation that nobody talks about, there are millions of people on the brink of famine that are losing access to, food that could keep them alive. And I've never experienced hunger. I've never experienced homelessness. I've never I even think of like, I've never really experienced depression. I have anxiety, but I've
Mhm.
never experienced depression.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of, if you focus on the shit that's working for you, it's kind of wanting what you have, not wanting things you don't have.
Right.
Like I want what I
Or
have.
appreciating the things you have,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
All right, this is called Shit Talking with Elizabeth Tulloch. You see Tulloch?
Tulloch.
Tulloch. I said Tulloch. Tulloch. It's Tulloch.
Tulloch.
But I look at it and I say Tulloch, but it's Tulloch.
It's so, I mean, we're splitting hairs,
I'm
but
kidding.
yeah.
I'm
Did I
kidding.
get that one right?
Yeah.
Splitting hairs?
Yes.
Okay.
Splitting
I thought
hairs.
as it was leaving my mouth, I'm like 50-50. This is correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Shit Talking with Elizabeth Tulloch. This is rapid
You
fire.
can call me Bitsie, by the way.
Bitsie. I know, Bitsie. Well, thank you.
All right.
So
rapid
Bitsie,
fire.
so Shit Talking with Bitsie, and this is rapid fire. So
Yeah.
you got to go fast.
All right.
These are my top tier patrons. Patreon.com/inside of you. I love you. Thank you for being here. Raj, tell me about a time you were able to prove someone wrong.
Okay. When I was watching the Little House on the Prairie pilot, the Native Americans, they're speaking French. And I started translating. I don't really speak French, but a little bit. And David was like, "What? You don't speak French?" And I'm like, I mean, I do a tiny bit. I do. And the guy is speaking, and I just I'm like, "This is what he's saying. This is what he's saying." And David's like looking at me.
How do you know this?
He goes, "How did I not know this?" I'm like, "I don't know. We don't really go to France that often." If we went to France, I could get around a little bit. It's just not. It's not something
So you proved him wrong. You really did
I
know
proved
something.
him wrong.
Little
Yeah.
Lisa, what does happiness mean to you, and how do you pursue it?
Gratitude is happiness,
Period, yeah.
and I pursue it by focusing on the shit that is going right for you, or yeah, basically what I just said.
Yeah.
Want the things that you have, and don't focus on things, as much. And again, I recognize my inherent privilege in even saying that, because I have so much. And so it's easy for me to sit here and say that. But there were times when I didn't, I had no money when because of the divorce, my dad, I went from, feeling comfortable. And then when I moved to LA, I think I had $3,000, and I started tutoring and working, as an assistant for
all those skills came back to you, and you're like, I
Yeah.
know how to do this.
But I remember having to borrow $100 from my sister to pay for my health insurance.
I just borrowed $100 from him right before the show.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of genre, Mary Lou, what kind of genre do you prefer to play, and why? Or do you just any genre?
Honestly, I did comedy for a long time before Grimm. And since then, it almost feels like people consider me a dramatic actress only. Comedy's just fun. It's just fun.
Cicely, what's your fondest memory on set of Superman and Lois?
There was, so many, because mercifully, Tyler and I get along beautifully, because there are horror stories of other romantic and co-leads not getting along and or outright hating each other, but constantly laughing. I get the giggles easily. And one of the things that really makes me laugh is when people have hiccups.
Oh, it's the worst.
And so this was probably either season 1 or season 2, because it was still Jordan Elsass, and he originated the role of Jonathan on Superman and Lois, and then Michael Bishop came in for season 3 and 4. It was freezing, and so we were on this little warming bus at the exterior Kent Farm location, which it was the worst in the world. I felt so bad for the crew every time we were there, because there was a little tiny section of the house where the actors could be with the little heating
Was it
things.
Aberdeen?
No, it was in Delta on like the bird reserve, but
Right.
It was windy, it was muddy, and more than anything, because I love the crews and they work so hard. I'm like, it was so windy, their tents would be flying away half the time. And then the owners of the farm were kind of being bitchy about letting the crew be inside the farmhouse to stay warm.
Jesus.
So
Well, who had the hiccups?
Jordan had the hiccups, and I almost peed myself. I was laughing so hard. I couldn't stop.
He couldn't stop hiccuping.
It couldn't, but it was also the noise. It was like froggy noises. No, his were like froggy noises, which is even worse. But I'm laughing and you don't even have the hiccups. It's just a silly noise to me that makes me giggle.
Amber C, besides Tyler, who's your favorite Superman?
Christopher Reeve.
Of course. This has been fantastic. You work with John Goodman?
I did on The Artist.
Yeah.
I didn't work directly with him.
But you met him.
Yeah, I was originally, I auditioned to play his love interest, and I was deemed too young, which I was. I think Missy Pyle ended up getting it. But Berenice Bejo, who was the female lead of The Artist, she was married or is married to Michelle Hazanavicius, the director, and she was involved in producing and was looking at the audition tapes. And I've played Period several times. A movie called Parkland that was about JFK's assassination.
I liked it.
Oh, thanks.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were great.
Thank you. I worked with Paul Giamatti. It was fantastic.
I forgot that you were in Parkland.
Yeah.
I loved, yes.
That was so emotional because we filmed, because I played this woman, Marilyn, who was with Abraham Zapruder, who was filming, obviously. We filmed that where it happened. So there was just this sense of like, oh my God, this is heavy. This is heavy.
Yeah, man.
We're filming it right where it happened. But I forgot what I was saying.
No, you were talking about working with John Goodman.
Oh yeah. So anyway, Berenice was looking at the audition tapes, and I had done the little kind of curls in my hair and
old school.
Yeah, total old school. And she said to Michelle, "This young woman looks so period. We've got to put her in the film in some capacity." And there was the role of this young ingenue starlet who had done a series of films with Jean Dujardin's character. And they just called and offered it to me, which was so cool. And that was an amazing experience because I think, and it's sad too, but I'm pretty sure that was the only film that in 2010, which is when we filmed it, shot exclusively.
Won the Oscar.
Well, they swept the Academy Awards. And I remember when I was filming it, I was telling friends, they're like, "What are you filming?" I'm like, "It's this indie. It's going to be this art
sound.
house." Yeah, it's a silent black and white indie. And I'm like,
I don't know.
It'll be like, I think it'll do well in like art house theater. Swept the Academy Awards. I had no idea.
I love it.
But it was so cool because the costume designer, who also won an Academy Award, I was wearing Dorothy Lamour's outfits. And so it'd say like D. Lamour MGM. And my wardrobe was gossamer thin because it was so old, it was almost falling apart.
You'd be really careful.
And I'm a slob. So I would, every time it was lunch, I'd be like, I'm changing out of this and getting right back in when we're filming.
Yeah.
I don't trust myself. There was an AD who was French, an AD who was speaking English. I remember the French DP I loved. He would always say, mon petit chou, which I think means my little cabbage. Or like maybe
I got to learn that one.
Yeah,
Mon petit chou.
Mon petit chou. That was an extraordinary experience because it was black and white. Nobody had to be mic'd, and they brought in a gramophone and were playing like 1920s, 1930s music half the time.
You loved it.
It was amazing. It was special.
Well, this is special. Is there anything? What's your Instagram?
Bitsie Tulloch. Pretty much most of my handles are just Bitsie.
Bitsie Tulloch.
BITSIE TULLOCH.
And anything coming out or anything, or you're just taking a break?
No,
you do have things coming out? I thought you were taking a break, for God's sakes. All right, what are you doing? What's coming up?
I have a movie called Nichols that I did with Rob Riggle. That's a dramedy.
Oh, yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, and Odessa Azion and Aaron Holiday. Great cast.
Nice.
Rebecca Gayhart, Vanessa Shaw. That's coming out probably in a couple months. And I think we got theatrical distribution, actually. Briarcliff is producing it. Yeah. We shot it last summer. Yeah, Nichols.
Oh.
Yeah, so I have a lunch next week, actually, and I guess the cast and crew and the producers are getting ready to talk about what the next steps are leading.
I'm glad you finally came over here. Did you have fun?
Oh my God, I'll come.
I mean, I could just listen to your story. That's all I did was just like let her go.
I told you, I'm also a talker. So when you said like 1 hour max, I was
didn't
thinking,
need to do anything. This is the favorite part when I don't have to kind of get you to talk and it's and the stories were interesting. Like I learned so much about childbirth. That my head's spinning. No, this is great for women out there and husbands alike.
Yeah.
I think it's important that everybody hears it. I think you're fascinating, beautiful inside out.
Thank you.
And I wish you the best. Give David a big hug for me.
I will.
And next time we'll talk more about David.
Yeah, or have him come on.
I know,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe I will. What can you say? She was
Smart.
awesome.
So smart.
So smart. You could tell how smart she is, but
Yeah.
she's not condescending.
No.
She's on your level, but she's smarter than me. That's what I'm thinking. Like she's smarter than me, but she's pretending she's not, which is very humble.
And very nice too.
Yeah, I really, really loved having you on the show, Elizabeth. So thank you. Hopefully you enjoyed this podcast too. Again, if you want to join Patreon and support the podcast, I would love that. Patreon.com/inside of you. Tons of perks, and you're helping the show. My Instagram at the Michael Rosenbaum, and the link tree with all the events and conventions I'm going to. Ryan's going to come to Chicago.
I'm coming to Chicago.
I wish you can go on the cruise with us in June. There's a Smallville cruise, Cruiseville.
I can't. I've already made plans to go see my family.
Damn. Remember that episode of Good Times? Damn. No, you don't. You're cheating.
No, I wish.
Anyway, thanks for supporting the show. We are going to give shout outs. This is also a perk. You get your name shouted out at the end of the episode if you're a top tier or a how deep is your love tier. And these people, I wish I could just say each of their names 100 times because they make the show possible. So thank you. Nancy D, Little Lisa, Yukiko, hello, Brian H, Niko P, Rob I, Jason W, Sophie M, Raj C, Jennifer N, Stacey L, Jamal F, Janelle B. I just messaged a lot of these people. I just wanted
Mike?
to know that.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you message Mike?
I think I did, yeah.
Eldanzsupremo,
Mm-hmm.
99 more.
Ooh.
Santiago M, Leanne P, Maddie S, Kendrick F, Belinda N, Dave,
Dave Hole, love Dave Hole.
Brad D, Ray H, Tabitha T, Tom N.
Oh, Tom N. Tom N? Yes. Talia M, Bitsie D. Hope you're well. Thanks for messaging me. Rhiannon C, Rhiannon Rings. Michelle A, Jeremy C, Mr. Melski. Eugene R, Monica T, Mel S, Eugene. Erica H, Amanda R, Kevin E, Jammin J, Leanne J, Luna R, Jules M, Jessica B, Kaylee J, Charlene A, Romeo the Band.
Frank B,
Oh.
Jen T, April R, Randy S, Claudia, Rachel D, Nick
Rachel.
W, Stephanie and Evan,
Stefan.
Charlene A, Don G, Jenny B76, NG, Tracy,
Keith B, Heather and Greg. Grether, loved having lunch with you. It was wonderful. Thanks for helping out the charity. It was absolute joy having lunch with you, and it really meant a lot to me. I hope you enjoyed the pictures, and I know I did, and we'll see you on the cruise. You could tell us how well the cruise was, how good it was. Ellie K, of course. Ellie, Ben B, Pierre C, Sultan. I like just saying Sultan. Ingrid C, Dave T, Jeff G, Kareem H, Brian B, and Patrick H. Patrick H. I don't really think I've said your name, have I? Thank you for supporting the podcast, all you guys, gals, and folks. You rock, and thank you for making my podcast possible. And again, go to sunspin.com, get pre-orders and all that stuff. My Instagram. Ryan, always a pleasure. You good? How's the mental health?
It's fine. I had therapy this morning, so I'm extra chipper.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was good.
That's good. I had therapy last week, and then I have it next week. And I know exactly what I'm going to talk about.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah,
juicy.
bro. Like, I know that when I'm doing certain things, I'm like, this is probably not right. So what happens is I withdraw.
Mm-hmm.
I withdraw from people, a lot of people, for times where I just feel like I don't need to be so available to you. I don't need to be, I read that too. It's like when you're always available, you become less desirable, which is kind of bullshit. I feel like, but
it feels like it shouldn't work.
It feels like it shouldn't work. Like it's bullshit. So you should be available to your friends. They should be available to you. But sometimes I feel like my friends aren't available, or people in my life aren't available, or I'm not as important. Sometimes I feel like that. And I know there's deeper issues there. So I tend to back away, back off. And then they'll come around like, hey, what's going on? But I don't do it on purpose. Like I do it on purpose, but I don't. It's just for me. It's just sort of for me to take a step back and me time and not. So all of a sudden it's like a couple of weeks pass and I'm just not really, and some people that I feel like I reach out to family members, they always disappoint me. And so I'm tired of that. And I kind of go, okay, now I'm not available to you at all. Okay. So I don't know. Thanks for letting me get that out. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I'm Michael Rosenbaum from the Hollywood Hills in California.
I am Ryan Tejas, and I'm going to clear my throat in a second,
Yes,
but I'm going to
please
do it later.
Yes, do it later. Ryan Tejas here. A little wave of the camera. We love you, and we couldn't do this podcast without you. So thanks for listening. And as always, please, most importantly, be good to yourself. We'll see you next week.